How are we doing, guys? And welcome back to All Leeds TV. It's your All Leeds TV season player. No, I'm gone. Player season ratings. No, I was right the first time. Season player ratings for 2024, 2025 for the Centurions and for the champions. Again, ole ole. I can't do it with the same enthusiasm now. It's like 2 or 3 weeks of it. It's just the enthusiasm's died off a bit, but we are still the champions, Cash. And this is the player ratings of the champions. How are you, first and foremost?
Yeah, I'm really good. Buzzing.
Have you sobered up from the pretty much 2 weeks of celebrations?
Just about getting there, yeah.
At a push. Well, let's go into. We're gonna do it position by position order. So we'll start with the goalkeepers first and foremost. And
well, I'll just apologise that we haven't actually done any videos out. That's because we were celebrating very hard.
It was very big celebrations. I mean, to be fair,
very
I think
chaotic as well.
They wouldn't have been the best of videos, to be fair. Certainly Saturday. Saturday might have been interesting, but yeah, Sunday might have been a write-off, as was Monday, to be fair. But we are back, guys. We are back with your favourite content. So, Illan Meslier, we'll start with. Probably quite an unfortunate sidestep that when I say favourite content and then straight on to Illan Meslier. Tash, we'll start with you first. What have you gone for on Illan Meslier for the season?
I know you're not a fan of him, but I've gone for 6.5.
6.5?
Yeah. Because I'm in an hour between a 6 and a 7 because I feel like 6 still a bit harsh, but he did cost us a lot of points. But he also did do some brilliant saves. And I still think there's a good keeper in there somewhere. It's just like his confidence shot, I think. Yeah, and then just fumbling around and just things like that. I was never confident when on a corner that it would be safe.
Yeah, it's his biggest weakness, I think. This is probably going to be the biggest difference between us in terms of ratings because I've gone very different on this, very different.
I seem very low. Or...
I feel like that, the good cop, bad cop kind of thing. I'm certainly feeling like the bad cop because I've gone for a 4 out of 10. I think, to be honest, Meslier didn't have the best of seasons last season. I'm just going to have to be honest with this one. Meslier didn't have a great season last season. I think this season was probably even worse. To be fair, there was a run, as you allude to, Tash, from Jan to February where, that wonder save against Coventry, some good saves against Sheffield Wednesday, a run of clean sheets where it wasn't just because of the defence in front of him. He was making some genuinely really good saves. To be honest, his probably best run of the season came after that Hull game, weirdly. He kind of bounced back quite well from that. But then there was the Sheffield United away game. And after that one, it kind of went downhill again. Portsmouth away, a big mistake there. QPR, can he do better on the first goal of QPR? And then eventually it comes to the Swansea game where he gets dropped from the team altogether. And ultimately, I think that was a pretty crucial decision by Daniel Farke. And we will come on to Daniel Farke's rating right at the end of the video, but it's part of the reason why maybe I've changed my rating a little bit for Daniel Farke. But I just thought it was a pretty poor season for Illan Meslier. I think over the season, he cost us a lot more points than what he won us. His distribution, which was a strength of his to start with, it's kind of also, I think it's kind of like a domino effect with Illan Meslier. I think there is a keeper there. I do still think that, but I'm not sure whether we're going to see that goalkeeper in a Leeds United. That goalkeeper reaches potential in a Leeds United shirt. So I've gone a bit low, maybe a little bit harsh, maybe a little bit of late season bias here. Maybe if you asked me in sort of Jan, Feb, I might have gone a little bit higher. Probably would have gone higher, but I'm going to go a 4 out of 10. And let us know in the comments, guys. I feel that will be our biggest difference between the two of us, though, because I think the other ratings are fairly similar. So let's move on to our other goalkeeper, and I'll just start the ball rolling on this one, because I've gone a 7 out of 10 for Carl Darlow. Probably would have been a little bit higher. I've just factored in that he's not played that many minutes. But you know what, actually? I'm going to go with 7.5. I'm going to be indecisive. It's not like me to be indecisive, is it? I'm going to go a 7.5 out of 10, because I've just thought, you know what? You've got to factor in how much pressure Carl Darlow was under when he came in. If he made a mistake in any of those games, the pressure on Daniel Farke in terms of making that big call would have been absolutely humongous. And I think he just brought calm to the whole team, not just the back line. I think the whole 11 really felt calm with Carl Darlow there. His distribution is not the best. I think it was a lot very basic what he's doing with the ball at his feet, but that doesn't really matter. He kept the ball out the back of the net. Certainly gained us more points than he lost us. I can't really think of any mistakes. Maybe against Millwall in the Cup, but ultimately, do we really care about the Cup? I've gone 7.5 out of 10. Tash, what have you gone for?
I can't remember. We flipped mine off.
You've gone higher. You have gone higher.
I can remember if I went for 7 or 8. I think I went for 8, just how much it meant to us in the end, like the promotion, like you say, the amount of pressure he was under. But I'm also going to argue that he wasn't, because everyone had low standards of him anyway. Especially like say after the cup run and that. I don't think I don't know. I think this is one that me and Jack used to argue on, because he was like, he was brilliant before, and I didn't really know much of him before. But yeah, so he was like, no, absolutely play him. And I have egg on my face, because I was like, I don't know. We just need a better keeper to come in, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, he really shut me up. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm rambling here. But yeah, I think, just how much calmer I was when he was on, like when we had, like say, corners and things. He just made me feel so much more at ease.
Just did the basics really well. And it feels like I'm downplaying a bit saying the basics. And I would have gone higher, believe you me, I would have gone higher had he played more games this season. But
I would have gone higher as well if he hadn't done. There was certain things that reminded me of Meslier, like the whole I'm gonna wait till someone's right on me and just, and now I'm like, don't, we're gonna make a mistake. Like PTSD coming in, but so that was just like my nitpicking with him. Yeah, that I still didn't like that.
Fair enough. I mean, for me, I still don't think Darlow can be our starting goalkeeper for next season. I think very solid backup. And, if we do bring in a slightly younger goalkeeper than Darlow, who's a bit more maybe in his prime right now, I think it's a great option to have in terms of Darlow as the backup in case that signing doesn't work out, in that kind of sense. And I do think we will bring in the keeper. I think Dallow's firmly kind of established himself ahead of Illan Meslier now, to be honest. Just with I think it's more like I don't really know what the word for it is. The word that I was going to say is totally gone from my mind. But the actual what Dallow's represented in that last sort of 6-7 games is just calm. Rather than making wonder saves, just calm that he's brought to the team.
Yeah.
I'd be very surprised now if Illan Meslier is anything more than third choice and Darlow isn't at least second choice next season. So we'll move on from the goalkeepers. We'll go on to a right back because he has played pretty much every minute this season. Our second most minutes all season, 3,851 to be precise, 44 starts, and it's Jayden Bogle. Tash, I'll let you go first.
Did I say 7?
You did. I thought this was slightly harsh. I can't lie. I think Tash has been quite harsh with some of these ratings. I can't lie.
Right. So this is the reason why I went for 7 was purely the start of the season. I thought he was bad. He wasn't that great. And then he did get better and better. But then I found when Firpo wasn't playing, I didn't find him as good. I think he went missing in some of the games that we needed him to push on and be up, more forward. And that's why I was a little bit harsh. But he has been really good. I just think he's been caught out a little bit sometimes. And then between maybe 7.5 then.
Okay. We'll change it.
We'll go 7.5. Just because of the shaky start they had.
Well, I've gone on the basis of I've gone higher. I'll be honest. I've gone higher on Jayden Bogle. I think it's totally fair to talk about the start of the season because I think the first 2 or 3 games I was thinking, this isn't kind of worked out as I thought it was going to. That Portsmouth game, his debut, he looked good going forwards, but defensively, it was looking bad the first 2 or 3 games. But I think it was around the time of, probably even the first month actually, you could say was quite dodgy from Jayden Bogle. But I think it was maybe. I was trying to think what game. I think it was Coventry at home where he scored in the game, and he looked, part of the system. Then he looked like he was comfortable at that point. And he did have some dodgy moments after that. Don't get me wrong. I think Preston away in the first half, I think, was a pretty bad game from Jayden Bogle. A couple of other maybe iffy kind of games as well. But I think second half of the season might be a bit of an outrageous statement, this, but I genuinely think he was our best player in this overall in the second half of the season. I think he was probably our most consistent player. Again, not a flawless season, and maybe have gone a little bit high based on the second bit of the season. I've got a 9 out of 10. I think as well, the crucial goals and assists he's got. That Oxford one, that performance against Oxford where we were very much off it. And Joe Rodon was obviously the star of the show because of how good he was defensively. But Jayden Bogle was our attack that night. He was the only player who was making things happen. Stoke as well at home, the 6-0. I mean, he looked absolutely unplayable in that game. Bristol City, I think in the second bit of the season, I think he has had some genuinely unplayable games. Coventry away comes to mind as well, that 2-0 win. And 6 goals and 4 assists, is pretty decisive from our right back. But he's not actually our most productive fullback because that is Junior Firpo, and we'll come on to him in a second. But I've gone overall, Jayden Bogle, a 9 out of 10. Yeah, it might be a bit generous, but if it can be generous and round it up a bit, I'm rounding it up. I'm taking the opportunity. We have took 100 points at the end of the day, so let us know in the comments as well.
Got promoted, we'll give them more.
If we'd finished second, maybe I might have knocked it. If Manuel Solomon hadn't have scored in literally the last 30 seconds, I think maybe every player might be 1 rating down. I can't lie. But anyway, that didn't happen, so we'll never know. I'll just move us on to Joe Rodon, because I've also gone the same rating, Joe Rodon, 9 out of 10. Again, Joe Rodon, a bit similar to Jayden Bogle. He had quite a bad finish to last season. Kind of had a bit of a hangover effect this season. By no means a liability or ever at risk of losing his place. And still, for me, our best defender at all times, really. But I thought second half of the season, he just came into his own. He was absolutely a colossus in that sort of last 6 to 8 games. I think after Swansea, he just really did lock in, Joe Rodon, and I thought he had a superb season. One slight criticism, only 1 goal over the season. Maybe with Joe Rodon's aerial prowess, you'd expect how good he is in defending his own box. I wish he was maybe a little bit better attacking his own box, but all in all, I've got a 9 out of 10. I think Joe Rodon was at least as good as last season, if not probably took it up another notch, really. I've gone a 9 for Joe Rodon. I think he was absolutely exceptional. Probably would have been a 9.5, maybe even a 10, had it not been for the first couple of months where he was maybe a little bit off it. Tash, Joe Rodon for you.
You're going to have to tell me, I can't remember.
You've gone at the minute. You went a 5. No, you didn't. You went an 8. You went an 8 out of 10.
I went 8, yeah. Because I think he was slightly better than... so that was why I went for 7 with Bogle, because I thought Rodon was a better defender. I know that they're not the same position or whatever, but I just think he makes me really comfortable when I see him on that line. I think there was a few iffy games. I think even the last game he said he was shit at defending that.
Yeah, no, he did make a mistake on that Plymouth goal. Again, another one where had we not scored in the last minute, I maybe would have gone a touch lower on Joe Rodon.
But and I kind of put him up higher as well with the partnership that him and Ampadu have. I think that makes me score him more as well. I don't.
Okay. We'll go.
I do love Joe Rodon. I don't know if I have been a bit harsh, but yeah.
I don't think Hannah will be too happy with you, only going 8. I can't lie. I think Hannah, you might be getting a message from Hannah later on about that. But anyway, we'll move on. We'll go on slightly different on this next player, Pascal Struijk. I'll go to you first, Tash.
I was harsh with this. I've gone 6, I think.
I thought, what did you go, 6 or?
I think so. Did I?
So we'll go on to
Pascal
Struijk. What's the story on Pascal Struijk over the season?
I mean, it's harsh because he's not played that much, and he did do that great goal. What? Your memory is so much better than mine.
It was double against Sunderland.
Double goals, yeah.
Came
Sunderland.
on.
Sunderland.
Sunderland, yeah.
But that I think hides away the fact that he hasn't been that great. I don't know. I'm just not confident in him. Some people really love him, but I just don't feel it. I think we've got better players. Yeah.
Yeah, what I'd say with Struijk, before I do my rating, I think I look at Rodon and Struijk, and even Rodon and Ampadu, I would still sign another centre back. I think Joe Rodon, for me, is still the leader of the back line. I just think he needs someone alongside him who is a bit more Premier League proven, or maybe not so much Premier League proven, but proven at like the top level, in the top league, if it's the Liga, if it's Serie A, if it's Bundesliga. I do think we need another option just anyway, because Pascal Struijk, it has to be said, has picked up injuries at the running in both the last 2 seasons, at crucial times, really. And that obviously that's not Pascal Struijk's fault. I'm not going to knock anything off his rating for that, but it is something that's worth pointing out. And maybe Pascal Struijk in the Premier League, we've kind of seen in the previous seasons, it hasn't gone too well. I do think Pascal Struijk's a better player now than what he was then, but again, it's still a risky one, that, in terms of Rodon and Struijk. Does it scream Premier League to me? If I'm being totally honest, probably not. I think that's just because of the standard of the Premier League, but I'll jump onto my rating anyway. I think I've been maybe a bit.
I think as well with Rodon, I think he pushes a lot more forward, whereas Struijk is more sideways. I think. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll give him a rating. Okay, right. I've gone generous here. I have gone generous. This is an example, right, of where where you can round up. You can round up. Right. I'll give it a context to this. First and foremost, there's been the crucial goals, to be fair. He scored 5, and they've all been...
Has he scored that many?
Yeah, 5, to be fair. I didn't think it was that many, but they have all been... They've either won us a point or they've won us 3 points directly from them goals. So they've been pretty crucial. You've got to give that to Pascal in terms of he is good. He's better, I think, actually attacking crosses into the opposition's box, and he is defending his own box in many ways. But I do think first half of the season, I thought Pascal was very good. I do genuinely believe that. I think the turning point was that injury around Christmas time. I think after that, his second half of the season, I have to be honest, wasn't great. And maybe a lot of this rating is based on that first bit of the season. When he did come back, obviously he had the crucial 2 goals against Sunderland, which maybe does put that rating up a little bit as well. But I think Pascal's been good. I think with the goals, he's kind of really helped us. But again, yeah, I think Joe Rodon's been clearly better over the season. There's no question about that. And maybe it probably should be closer to a 7 out of 10, this. But yeah, in fairness to Pascal, he hasn't played much second half of the season. When he has played, he's not been great. But maybe I'll give him a bit of the benefit of the doubt with the second bit of the season. But I do think probably more likely he will be a bit more of a rotation player next season, I would think. But we'll see. We'll see on that one. Let's move it on to Junior Firpo. I'll just jump on this one first. I've gone quite high on Junior Firpo. A bit lower than Bogle, but I've gone an 8.5 out of 10. Now, first and foremost, in 31 starts, he scored 4 goals and assisted 10. So 14 goals or assists in 31 games. So almost 1 in 2 from a fullback is absolutely insane, by the way, considering he doesn't take set pieces, he doesn't take penalties, free kicks or corners. It's insane what Junior Firpo offers us going forward. The reason it's a little bit lower than Bogle is I think there has been times where Junior Firpo, I'm thinking back to the goal against Preston, where he basically just lets Preston's winger just basically come inside and he smashed it in for him like 20 yards and that lot. I do still think there's question marks on Junior Firpo defensively. Obviously, we need to see if he's going to stay or not, but I still think even next season, there has been improvements to him defensively, but I still think question marks definitely on the defensive side of his game. But going forward, he's been excellent. I think he's had an excellent season. I could have easily gone to a 9 out of 10 for this, but I think the fact he's missed 15 games as well, I've gone a little bit, or just under 15 games. I've gone a little bit lower. I've gone 8.5.
Yeah.
Dash? Can you remember what you went for?
8? Was it?
I can put it up to an 8. You did go 7 initially.
Yeah. I think because did I put Bogle on 8? And I think he's not as good as, but hasn't been as good as Bogle.
We gave 7. You gave 7.5.
Oh, I was harsh.
You've been harsh on these ratings. You think we thought finishing the playoffs?
I'm rethinking everything now. Well, I must have been in a mood earlier. Yeah. So I went for, what did I go for? 7.
7 out of 10 on Junior Firpo.
Is that what I went for?
Yeah, you can change it though. You can change it.
Yeah, so I think the reason why I went 7 is because I just don't think defensively I'm that confident in him. I think he's so much better going forward, and obviously, like you've just said, he's had 14 goals and assists. And I just think he'll be a great player to keep, especially even if you put him as a winger. I think he could be versatile.
Or a wing back where he just focuses on
Yeah,
attacking and a little
yeah,
bit of defending.
yeah, definitely.
I think the
And
same
I
for
think,
Bogle potentially as well, maybe.
yeah, and I think for me it was I didn't realise how good Firpo was until that Cardiff game. As soon as he come back in, and he just seemed to balance everything. Like he mimicked what Bogle was doing on the other side, and we suddenly were using both sides of the pitch rather than just keep going down the same side all the time. And obviously against other players, he goes forward a lot more, and he just brought that excitement. So yeah, I think it was a little bit harsh. But like you say, he has had a lot of injuries and stuff, been out quite a
I mean,
bit.
that
So
is an issue with Junior Firpo. It is an issue.
yeah,
50, almost a third of a season missing through injury. It is, looking ahead to next season, I would also keep Junior Firpo, but I do think a more defensive-minded left back. If we are going to stick with a back four, I think it's probably important. The other thing I mentioned about Junior Firpo, and when we do come on to rating this player as well, it should be mentioned, is Junior Firpo has massively helped Manuel Solomon. I think Manuel Solomon's form has gone up like that, just like vertical since. If you compare Solomon's performances with no disrespect to Sam Byron, but with Sam Byron behind him compared to Junior Firpo, where he can kind of cut inside a little bit more because Junior Firpo is effectively a winger in the way we
yeah,
play. I think that has to be considered. And I think the numbers would probably, I've not dug into the numbers, but I think the eye test will tell you enough that Manuel
yeah.
Solomon looks a far better footballer when he's got Junior Firpo behind him. So Firpo deserves credit for that as well. So
No.
we'll move it on to, in fact, that very player, Sam Byram. You have gone for. Can you remember what you raced any of these players?
You should just go ahead. Tasha did. So I don't
So
know what you
before
asking.
you messaged me, when you were in a mood before, you said 6 out of 10 for Sam Byram, and you said as well he's lucky to get a 6.
Did I?
No, you
I'm
didn't. You didn't. You didn't
just...
say that. You didn't say that.
You're just staring the pot now. Did I go for 6? I went
You
for...
had 6.
Yeah, see, that's a little
I
bit
think it's fair. I've gone the same, by the way. I've gone
hard.
exactly the
Okay,
same.
maybe 6.5. Just because he was stable and he is calm and he did and I get why he used to bring him on sometimes, but he just went backwards so much, backwards Byron, as Jack used to call him. I just think he went backwards a lot, and but yeah, I think defensively he was still pretty good. Um yeah, I'm gonna stick no, I'm gonna go 6.5.
Okay, no worries, no
Yeah.
worries.
And the
I think
fact
the
that
other thing as well is I'm quite surprised. Sam Byram, guess how many games, not necessarily starts, but games Sam Byram was involved in last season. This blew my mind. This
is it in every game or not?
he played in 39 games last season. That just doesn't
Yeah.
feel right at all. He got
uh,
subbed on 20 times last season.
Yeah, I
20
thought,
times as a
yeah,
left back or right back. That I knew it was a lot, but I thought
especially
flipping
towards the
heck.
end of the season. Yeah, he just kept putting
It's
him on. Yeah,
crazy. That is pretty crazy. He'd started 19 games as well, which I didn't think he started anywhere near that many.
I think that was
Um,
because Firpo was out injured,
yeah, with
right?
Firpo's injury. So obviously there was 15 games or so that Firpo was missing or couldn't start. Sam Barnes took the majority of the minutes there. And one player we're not going to rate because he's played so few minutes is Isaac Schmidt. But I do think Isaac Schmidt has looked better than Sam Barham. I think that's
Yeah,
not being harsh on Sam Barham. I just think he has been better. Plus, we also met Isaac Schmidt on the promotion night. So naturally, I'm always going to have a natural bias towards Isaac Schmidt now. But and top fella as well, top fella. But yeah, Sam, I think was better last season. I think even considering he was playing
yeah,
that position last season, I think he played more
I
last
agree.
season as well. I don't think he's done anything wrong or anything like that in terms of he just has been a noticeable drop off, especially going forward. Not so much defensively, but going forward has been a big drop off when you have
Yeah,
had to put Byram in for Bogle and Firpo. And maybe that's more because of how good Bogle and Firpo are rather than Byram. But I think in terms of overall minutes played, maybe not being the most consistent when he has played. I've gone a 6. Maybe that's a bit of a harsh 6. Yeah, maybe it's a bit of a harsh 6, that one. Yeah, I might change that myself, actually. I don't want to be the harsh one here. 6.5. And by the way, guys, please let us know. Please let us know your ratings as well as we're going along. Have I been far too kind on some players? Is Tash being far too harsh on some players as well? It's let's see. So that's the defenders, I think. Yeah, all the defenders that have played sort of over 1,000 minutes were kind of rated there. So we'll move on to midfield. And I think the pick of the midfield and probably our player of the season, was voted our player of the season. He was also got my vote. I think he got Jack's vote. I'm not sure if he got your vote or not, Tash.
No, Dan James.
Dan James.
Yeah.
Well, our Tanaka, I thought was very tight over the season. And to be fair, Tanaka probably would have been a 10 out of 10 until he had a bit of a drop off in March. March specifically was a bad month for our Tanaka. But we'll move on from that because the rest of the season he was exceptional. Genuinely, I think pretty much every game, other than that March period, it was a contender for man of the match. I really do believe it. Crucial to what we did going forward, crucial to what we did in terms of pressing and winning the ball back, tenacity, crucial goals as well, by the way. Our Tanaka, I wouldn't say he's a prolific goal scorer, but he did still chip in with 5 goals, and they were crucial goals as well. You think back to, say, they got the winner against Sheffield United from the corner, the goal against Hull, which should have won us the game, which was, I think, did get voted goal of the season as well. And he was just absolutely fantastic. Meticulous.
He gets more points for confusing players. It just stands there.
And he was just exceptional. He had the best chance of the season as well. He was just the best of everything last season. One of the best passes of the ball we've had in a long, long time at this football club. Yeah. And I think it was a full-on 9 out of 10. And I feel a bit harsh going as low as 9, but yeah, maybe could go a bit higher. But I'll stick with 9. Tash.
Yeah, I went for 9 as well. Exactly all the same reasons. And I think he just did a blip in like 1 or 2 games, and you could see it really hurt him as well, like that he did have that. But yeah, he's just all round plays absolutely amazing. Just can't really
easy Premier League, isn't he? He's easily a Premier League footballer.
Definitely, we need a copy of him. When you were saying our Tanaka, I thought you were saying our Tanaka.
Tanaka.
You really took to him.
Our
Tanaka.
It's but yeah, if we can basically have 11 our Tanakas on the pitch next season, that would be glorious. No disrespect to the other players, but I think they'd understand.
Yeah, definitely. He's like our new Pablo, isn't he? The new favourite.
Effectively, yeah, he's just absolutely unreal. I think I only see him getting better and better, even though we're going up a level. But yeah, we'll move on to, someone who was his midfield partner, but has also been Joe Rodon's centre-back partner. And I'll go to you first, Tash, because you've been super impressed by Ethan Ampadu this season. And who hasn't been super impressed by Ethan Ampadu? Yet again, superb. You went 8, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just been brilliant. And like I say, and then even in midfield, I thought he did really well and pressed really well. So yeah, playing in both positions. Probably didn't get a 9 because of, again, his injury. I can't really think of many faults that he did.
No, I think
when he did been the odd game where I've been like, I think there was one game, it was an away game, can't remember what, because my memory is so bad. It's definitely not like yours. It was an away game, and it was just like, what is going on with Ampadu? I think it was when he first came back from an injury.
Oh yeah, was it No, not QPR. It wasn't QPR. It was it Luton?
Might have been, yeah.
Luton 1-1. Yeah, he had a bit of a dodgy game in that.
And they even took him off, didn't they?
Oh no, Swansea. I tell you when it was Swansea at home. It was that 2-2 game.
Was it Swansea at home? I remember
he came
watching
off
on
after
TV.
about an hour. I think it was.
Really?
Let us know in the comments. Let us know in the comments. I love the fact on these player ratings, we've won the league, and just the Leeds fans and us, we've gone to like the bad games more than the good games kind of thing. So we did have a bad game here and a bad game. I've done it as well. I think this first thing I went to about Tanaka was he had a crap March, and that's that kind of thing. But you just feel like straight away you got to justify when you don't go a 10 out of 10. But yeah,
Ampadu. Want a 10 out of 10. Yeah.
I think he's established as a centre back as he is a midfielder now. I do think next season, I do want Ethan Ampadu in midfield rather than set defence. I want that power in midfield, I think. But he's an option as well. To go. You can even go back three as well with Rodon and Ampadu and another centre back as well. But he's just Mr. Versatile, isn't he? Only thing this season, maybe you could say, is he only actually started 29 games compared to pretty much being an ever-present last season. We have seen 1 or 2 injuries creep in. But all in all, when he played, he was.
I feel like
excellent.
I should give him another point for how he was in the parade.
There's that as well. His parade performance was an 11 out of 10. Never mind 10s here. Yeah, I've gone 8 as well. By the way, I think exact same as you said. Exceptional when he played, and we kind of just come to expect it with Ethan Ampadu. I don't think there's been much mention about how good Ethan Ampadu is, because I think you just get to a point where,
as well.
Yeah, his leadership superb.
Yeah.
He was fantastic. We'll go on to surprisingly played a lot of minutes in the end because he had a big injury in the middle of the season. Elia Gruev. So I'll go on to this one first.
Okay.
I've gone quite low, to be fair. Maybe is this harsh? Is this harsh going as low as a 6? I think the thing with Elia Gruev, I think is April to May. I think he finished the season well, to be fair. I think he was, never really stood out as much as a Tanaka or an Ampadu when he played alongside him, but I think he was better in the second half of the season. But I think overall this season, obviously the injury is a big part of it as well. Only started 20 games in the end, but he is someone that Daniel Farke is massively keen on. And, listen, you very rarely see Elia Gruev give the ball away, but ultimately you don't really see Elia Gruev play the passes that kind of open games up. You don't really see that from Elia Gruev. He does kind of keep it, short and simple, which isn't the end of the world because you've got other players around him who can do the more creative things. But what I do criticise is maybe sometimes his off the ball work. I think sometimes his lack of recovery pace can be found wanting, in terms of maybe a little bit of lack of strength in midfield from time to time as well. And it does worry me a bit for the Premier League football. But ultimately, and by the way, a 6 out of 10 is not bad. Let me just assess 6 out of 10 still average. And I just think Elia Gruev is that type of player where he's kind of a 6, 7 out of 10 most weeks. Maybe would have been a 7 if he played a few more minutes, but only sort of played half the season. Can't really remember many games where he was kind of above a 6 or 7 out of 10. So I've kind of gone a 6, but I will just point out, just to defend myself a bit, a 6 is not a bad rating. He was just had a bit of an average season.
Only when I say I'm harsh. I think.
Well, you went a 6 as well.
Yeah. I think as well. I just don't think there's any games that really stood out for me where I thought, oh my god, it was.
That's it, exactly that.
He's never been really man of the match. I think maybe
good or bad. It wasn't really bad games either.
Exactly. Yeah, I think say just an average player, steady. But yeah, doesn't really excite me. Which, like you said, doesn't matter when you got Tanaka next to him or whatever. But I would always choose Rothwell over Gruev.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. Well, that actually leads us quite nicely into Joe Rothwell because you've gone a 7 out of 10 on Joe Rothwell.
Yeah, I might have it. Yeah, I'm going to put that up to an 8 actually.
See, I went the same. Yeah. I went 8 as well.
Yeah, because I just think he did amazing on set pieces and stuff. Going forward, he were brilliant, and you could properly tell when he wasn't playing. It's just a shame that he got injured.
The worst possible time.
Yeah, but it didn't matter. Yeah, I just thought it was exceptional.
Yeah, it's a shame we probably aren't going to see Joe Rothwell play for Leeds again, unless we do make it permanent. But we'll see. We'll see if that does get made into a permanent. I would be very tempted to make Joe Rothwell a permanent, not necessarily to be a starter next season, but as a 4th choice midfielder, 3rd, 4th choice midfielder. I think it's okay for a season, and he's not going to be costing the earth either. So I would bring Joe Rothwell back, as a permanent, because I don't think he's going to cost that much, and he does a very handy role in this team. 27 starts, 39 games overall, some crucial assists from the corners. Of course, that Sunderland game we mentioned about Pascal Struijk getting the 2 goals, but it was a fantastic delivery from Joe Rothwell in the first place that led to the goals. So I think he was an 8 out of 10. I think in the first half of the season, much more, bit like Pascal, really, for me, where maybe I'm going more off the first half of the season than the second half of the season, where he played a lot less. But the first half of the season, I thought Rothwell was excellent. I really did think he was excellent. And obviously that injury came at a bad time, but still, second bit of the season, Sunderland away, couple of games towards the end of the season, he still delivered. And he's a really likeable personality. And it's a funny one with Joe Rothwell because there wasn't that much enthusiasm when he signed, but he's one of those players where I think he's just naturally underrated because of the type of player he is. He's quite understated, but he does do exciting things with the ball. He's not. He's one of those players where you can't judge the book by its cover, kind of thing with Joe Rothwell. And yeah, I've been impressed pretty much since pre-season with him. I've always felt he had maybe a bit of a slow start. I remember maybe a couple of games against Norwich when Grove and Ampadu got injured, where he maybe didn't kind of cover himself in glory, but he soon steps up and became a regular. He was Rothwell and Ampadu for so many games, like sort of 20 games on the bounce, I think they played together. And they were excellent. But we'll move on then, Tash, to your player of the season, Daniel James. You've gone 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I'll give it knock a point off for getting injured again. But yeah, he was just absolutely outstanding. I just think you could absolutely tell the difference when he's on and off the pitch. Just absolutely incredible. Created so much. Just his all-round play was amazing, and he just played out of his skin. He played with his heart. And comparing him to like seasons before. I mean, last season he did get injured as well, but like the season before Fark had joined, it was for me always like his decision making. It was a bit shaky, but I think Fark's just improved him so much on that and his finishing. Yeah.
Oh, there's no question about it. His finishing under Fark has gone. It's like night and day, really. I think his finishing, before, maybe even under Bielsa and certainly under Jesse Marsh, he's very erratic in front of the goal. But Dan James, without doubt, this has been his best season at Leeds United. Probably the best season of his career, even if you include like his Swansea spell and his spell. That's some other club as well. He had a spell at as well. I'm not sure what that club was, but yeah, 30 starts, 7 games off the bench, 12 goals, 9 assists. Doesn't take any free kicks and penalties, so those numbers are crazy. 21 goals and assists in 30 starts, and the crucial goals and assists as well. Crucial moments, decisive moments over the season. Maybe had a bit of a quiet finish to the season. Obviously, he had that injury at a bad time and actually lost his place to Wilfried Gnonto, but that was more because of availability than anything. But he had an excellent season. I've gone 9 out of 10 as well. Very close to getting my player of the season vote, but I think over the season, Tanaka was slightly more consistent, but I think in terms of decisiveness, without doubt, he was our better forward this season. And the amount of goals we scored this season, Dan James might not be directly involved in every single one, but he had a part in a large percentage of him just for those runs in behind and that speed and the panic it just gives the opposition's back line. So they have to sort of suddenly they got someone who, like one of the fastest players, genuinely one of the fastest players in the world. There's no question about it.
His speed.
He is absolutely. He can catch pigeons. This is what we're talking about. It's insane. In terms of, I still can't get over his speed. He's obviously 27 now, so obviously that kind of element he might drop off in terms of his speed in the next couple of years. But I think he's adapted his game well. I think he's suddenly become not totally reliant on his speed like he was before. But don't get me wrong, next season when we're trying to play a little bit more on the counter, when we might have to be a bit more defensive, having a Dan James who can get you from A to B very, very quickly will be very useful next season. And for me, without doubt, will be a starter for me next season. I know his time in the Premier League hasn't been the best, but I think he comes into the Premier League this time around with more confidence. And I think he can be a player who takes the Premier League, unexpectedly well. Like say an Mbeumo or a Jared Bowen kind of thing, where maybe they have had disappointments in the career before going into the Premier League, but this time around, Dan James goes in with a clear head, full of confidence, entering kind of the prime of his career now. This moment where he can really show he's a Premier League footballer, because I think he is far too good for the Championship, and it proved it over the season. So we'll go on to his competition for that right wing spot, which was Wilfried Gnonto. I'll just go first. I've gone quite a bit lower on Wilfried Gnonto, but still a good season. 7 out of 10, still good. 9 goals, 6 assists, 28 starts, 18 off the bench. So he was involved in pretty much every game. but did have a run of games, sort of a run of months really, where he just wasn't starting. And when he did get on the pitch, he wasn't making any impacts off the bench. And I think that has been the case throughout Wilfred Gnonto's career at Leeds, really, where when he's had a run of games starting, I think he's had really good spells of form. I think back to say like the September, October spell where against Sunderland away, that 2-2, where who made a big error at the end of the game. And that's one way of putting it. That's probably a light way of putting it, that actually. But Gnonto, I thought, was absolutely unplayable in that game. Caused Sunderland all sorts of problems. And he had a really good spell of form of sort of 6 or 7 games. Back end of the season as well for us this season. QPR away, came on, played in the number 10 spot, changed the game there. We came back from 2-0 down to 2-2. Swansea, he gets a crucial goal in that one. And, the back end of the season, in terms of the goal against Plymouth to equalise. Yeah, I think he's had a good season, Wilfred Gnonto. I still think there's more, though. That's the frustration with Wilfred Gnonto. There's still more. We still need to see a full season for Wilfred Gnonto where he's at his absolute best. And that'll certainly have to be the case at Premier League level. But I still think, as a squad option, at the very least, Wilfred Gnonto's still a good option for Leeds. But he can be incredibly frustrating. He can be frustrating. But I do still love him. 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I think I went the same, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, because I think as well with Gnonto, like I said, I think he's still got some more potential. I think he's like Dan James, where he can still knock it up a level like Dan James.
He's still only 21 as well, which is surprising.
Yeah. And the thing is, he had a lot of competition to get that position, so it might be a bit harsh with the 7, considering that he did have a lot of competition there, but. Yeah, so some games, like you say, he was really, really crucial in some of the goals he scored and things like that. So yeah, that's why I've given him a 7, but a good 7.
That's what I mean. It's a good 7.
Yeah, it's a good 7. Not like he's not as good as these players. It's more like say, he's not been consistent enough to get an 8 for me.
Yeah, no, exactly that. I think I was thinking 8, maybe 7.5, but I just compare it to other players, and I thought probably not. To be fair, but considering the standards he kind of has,
I don't think he has as much creativity. I think he has got a lot of creativity there, but like getting around players and stuff, I think he still struggles a little bit with.
Yeah,
I think he would rather kick it at someone and have it go out than trying to go around them.
Yeah, there's certainly been, like, compared to when he first started at Leeds, I think he's kind of dropped off, I think, in terms of how good he is at dribbling the ball and that lot and taking on the fullback. I think that has dropped off. And I actually think Wilfred Gnonto will be better as a 10 than a winger. I think in terms of the way he plays, I think the fact he has got that eye for a pass.
When he replaced Aaronson that game, I think after QPR, wasn't it?
QPR, exactly that. He was excellent. We never really saw it again after that. Well, let's move on to Aaronson, because you were between a rating. Have you decided on that rating, or are you going to go down the middle?
I'll go down the middle.
So that would be 6.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I don't know if it's harsh, but I just think there's so many times it was frustrating that he could have scored. But it is harsh because he has scored a lot. Yeah. And he does run around everywhere, but I just feel like we could still get someone a bit better in that position.
Yeah, I think that's totally. I've gone exactly the same. 6.5 out of 10. I think the first half of the season, I think he got 8 goals in the first half of the season, but only 1 in the second half of the season. And I think ultimately, you're starting as a number 10 for the best attacking unit in the league, the best team in the league by a distance, really. Certainly going forward, 9 goals and 2 assists in 44 starts. 1 every 4 starts. I think you've got to be doing more than that, certainly at this level. Because if you're not really, productive at this level, in terms of in the final third, then it's going to be even more difficult in the Premier League. And I just think with Brendan Aaronson, it's going to be a similar story next season to what it has been in previous seasons in the Premier League for him, or at the top level in the Bundesliga, where he's had good games, some very good games, but mostly it's been frustrating. And this season was the same. By the way, 6.5 out of 10 is by no means bad. I think he's just all right. I think he just had an all right season.
Yeah, it just wins it with like Gruev for me. I think he's a little bit better than I like him more than Gruev and Struijk, so that's why he's got the 0.5. But yeah, I just think And I think he has redeemed himself a little bit as well. So like he had that on the back of his mind, Leeds fans still gonna like me and things, and I still think he put his heart on the line considering and that. And I know it was his fault or whatever, not his fault, but like his decision and stuff. But yeah, I just think he'll always have that lingering on him a little bit.
Yeah, of course. It's that's totally fair. But we'll move on to the left wing then. So Manuel Solomon will go on to first. So I'll go on this one. I've gone 8 out of 10. I think he was not as decisive as Dan James. I think a lot of this is bumped up by his second half of the season. Certainly, his March to May sort of spell. I think April to May, especially those last 6 games, he was absolutely unplayable. He was the biggest part of getting us over the line. I felt, on the pitch, I think he was the biggest part in getting us over the line because he just absolutely played just phenomenally. He was like, and people might shout at me for saying this, it was like Pablo back in 2020 in terms of getting us over the line, being that one player who could get us over the line in that final third because Dan James got injured. Perot maybe wasn't consistent. Brendan Aaronson certainly wasn't consistent. It did fall onto Manuel Solomon to be the man that got us over the line. And he gets the goal against Plymouth. He gets the goal against Oxford. Won the goal against Preston. Great performances all round in the last sort of 6-7 games. And I think before that sort of 6-7 games, I think it's certainly fair to say Manuel Solomon was quite inconsistent. I think that's fair to say. But I think as time's gone on, I think he's got more and more comfortable in the team. Obviously, he came to Leeds off the back of a massive injury, which does need to be very, very heavily considered, maybe in terms of his slowish start. And he did actually get injured quite early on as well. So it did hurt his consistency maybe in the first bit of the season. But when he was fully at it, he was some player for us. And it'll be interesting if we can get him fully signed. That would be great. I still don't want us to get ripped off by Tottenham, though, because I just don't like the idea of Tottenham, a so-called Big Six team, profiting from us developing a player for him kind of thing. That's something I don't particularly like. But I'd rather have the player than get too worried about in terms of the fee. But 10 goals, 13 assists from 31 starts. Similar numbers to Dan James, really. Not as decisive as Dan James, but an excellent season from our loanee, Tash.
Yeah. What did I go for?
Was it harsh?
7
I
or
can't
8?
lie.
Did I
You
go
went
for
7
7?
initially. You can change it, though. You can change it.
Yeah, I'm going to change it. Yeah, I'll go 8.
Okay.
For the last goal, to be fair.
Just the comments I'm thinking, no.
I think I put a 7 because of he did have a spell where it felt like he didn't really impact the game much.
Yeah, absolutely. I was heavily critical during that spell, no question about it.
Yeah, and I think that's why I just did the 7, to be fair. But yeah, I do love him. I really want to keep him. Do want to sign him. On the Tottenham front, I think, maybe we could give him a little bit more money because they bought Jack Clark for 100. Not 100.
Yeah, that's true. And obviously,
how much did they pay for Jack Clark?
Is it 15? 15?
Why did I say 100?
I was thinking that 100 seemed a bit.
No, sorry. Why did I? Oh my god, I'm going so embarrassed now. I don't know why I just said that. I said to someone today, right? I always add a 0 on.
150 mil. 150 mil.
100, yeah, they put 100. When it like 10, and he wasn't. Was it 15?
It might have been 10. It's one of those with, like crazy add-ons. I mean, Archie Gray, they gave us 40 on Archie Gray, I think.
Yeah, I think they've been quite generous with.
But they still took our academy products off us. And I still go back to Danny Rose. I mean, I feel like a right old man talking about Danny Rose from like 20 years ago. But yeah, bollocks to Tottenham.
Can you edit that out? I just said I feel like a right twat. I was saying this today, like numbers in my head. I don't do numbers. Like I just
we'll give Manuel Solomon an 80 then. We'll move it on. We'll move it on.
I'm surprised I haven't said that. Yeah. Just pay
we'll
whatever.
To his competition in largely Ramazani. Now, another player, by the way, in terms of his, we were talking about Ampadu's celebrations, a solid 11 out of 10 for the celebrations, and you've gone 7 out of 10 for the season, Tash.
Yeah, I think it might be just for the fact that he hasn't played that much, considering like
Well, the
against someone
stats,
else.
he's only started 9 games. He's actually played
Yeah,
less than 1,000 minutes this season, which is, you know, it's basically like less than 10 full 90s when you think about it.
yeah.
No, hang on, I'm getting the numbers crazy now. Less than 12 full 90s. Less than 12
Who we
full
need got good
90s.
Oscar.
He's not playing much football. That is the overriding thing here.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think he's played much football, but when he has come on, he's been amazing. But yeah, I'd like to see what it'd be like. Yeah, but great impact player. And obviously he just comes on, scores a few goals as you do. Yeah, and just finishes off nicely. Like, yeah, rounds off games nicely. But yeah, really good impact player. What we've seen so far is really good. But I just haven't given him an 8 or whatever because just not, yeah,
That's totally
not
fair.
played much. Yeah,
He has been our most productive. Oh, I'm sorry, our most prolific player this season in terms of goals, sort of per 90. He's been unbelievably productive. 7 goals from 9 starts is crazy from
that
left
is.
winger. I have to be honest. Listen, we are going to give Daniel Farke a very high rating, as you can probably predict. But I think this is maybe the one thing this season where I've kind of thought, especially when Manuel Solomon wasn't having a great time of it. I think Largely Ramazani's been quite harsh to not have played more minutes, but I do expect big things next season. I think that pacing behind, similar to Dan James, I actually think he's got a higher ceiling than Dan James as well. I think he's just superb. I think he's magnificent, Largely Ramazani. I think he probably would have been much higher had he played more minutes. I think he's been as good as Manuel Solomon, probably on a similar level to Manuel Solomon, but ultimately gets a lower rating because, as you say, Tash, he's played less minutes. But I do think he's certainly not been our fourth best winger. I think he's still been better than Wilfred Gnonto.
Oh yeah,
Even
I think
haven't played
so.
last
Yeah.
minutes. So I had still go higher than Wilfred Gnonto, but 7.5 out of 10. But I think it easily could have been higher with a few more minutes. And he's still scored some crucial goals this season, and he's a wonderful character to have around the place as well.
His dancing is amazing.
Dancing's amazing as well. We need to see more of that dancing after he scores next season, hopefully. But I'm not sure Elijah Ramazani could have done much more this season. I think he's just been unlucky that he's had
Yeah,
Manuel Solomon as competition.
I don't think Millwall game did any players any favour as
That's
well.
true. Yeah, the cup game.
Yeah, and I don't know if some subs got held back because of that, and the fact that you don't really change your winning formula. I think it was harsh that he didn't get played, but I think it would have been just as harsh as taking others off as
Yeah,
well.
no, I get it. I totally get it why he didn't play many
I
minutes.
think the
But
competition up front was just
I think
unreal
that's the
this
bigger
year.
reason,
Yeah,
ultimately. And we'll move on to the strikers. It says we've got 2 strikers here to rate. So we'll start with. I'll just jump onto Joel Perot to start with. I've gone a similar rating to Largi Ramazani. I've gone 7.5 out of 10. Now this feels harsh. I must admit this feels harsh because he was our top scorer in the league, and I've only given him a 7.5 out of 10. But I think some context is needed here. 19 goals, 37 starts, sort of 1 in 2. Some really good games at 10 as well, where I actually think he's a bit better deeper. I still don't think Joel Perot's an out-and-out striker. I still think he's better in a 2 up front, where he's got someone doing most of the running and the other bits and the uglier part of the game, if you like, or playing a little bit deeper behind the number 9. I still think that's Joel Perot's best position. But ultimately, he played most of his minutes as a 9, and he got the goals, and he got a couple of assists as well with 7. So he was our most productive player over the season. And you can't question that. You can't question his end product. Where I've gone a bit lower is he has had some spells of really, really real dry spells, over the season where he's gone sort of like maybe 10 games with like a goal kind of thing. And then, but ultimately, it's in those performances. He just hasn't given us enough at times. His hold-up play has been a bit rubbish, to be honest. And his pressing isn't really there. But I feel harsh going 7.5 out of 10, but I've gone a little bit lower because I think what I've got to say is the amount of chances we create, I kind of expect whoever plays up top for us to be near them top scorer, sort of, near top scorer in the league. I really do expect that. And maybe that's a little bit harsh to say that. And I do love Joel Perot, by the way. I do absolutely love him. I am a bit of a Joel Perot defender. But I think if you go 8 or 9 out of 10, it does ignore a lot of his dodgy spells in the season where I think there was just far too many of those for a player of his quality. Because when he's at it, he is absolutely the best striker in the league when he's at it. But just doesn't doesn't quite do it enough for the quality he has for me. But still a great player for next season, no question about it, because of how good a finisher he is.
Yeah. What did I go for? 7 or 8?
You went a 7. You can
7,
change it
yeah.
though.
No, I think I'll go 7.5, same as you then. Yeah, I agree. He did go through some spells, like say, hold up play isn't great. And it's no fault of his own, but he's very slow as well.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, and that just frustrates me a little bit. If you could merge Bamford and Perot together, what a player that would
Oh,
be.
exactly. No
Yeah.
question about it.
Yeah. So, but I just think I've given him 7.5 because he's, apart from one game where he was literally like missing everything, he normally doesn't ever miss. Like he's normally really calm and he gets the really difficult goals. Yeah, and I mean I'm a lot more confident that he's going to score than like say what Bamford ever was. But Bamford all round play is better. Like, and I think yeah, 7.5.
Yeah, no, that's definitely fair.
Just that
It's
there's areas that could be better. But he's very clean. Yeah. And when he's in front of that goal, I do think he's gonna get this.
I think in the comments, I think there'll be a lot of variation in what people go for in
Yeah,
the numbers. I think some might go even lower than
I
7.5
know
because it can be
some.
frustrating. I don't get
Yeah,
me
I
wrong,
know
there's
some
times
that
where you
really didn't
think
like him. Yeah.
when he's not at it, I think that Preston game is the one you're alluding to where he missed quite a lot of chances where he won it 2-1. It should have been sort of a 4-1, 5-1 kind of
Yeah.
game. And, Perot didn't have his shooting boots on that day. But I have a feeling some will go higher, some will go lower, and a lot will go. I think he will split opinion quite a lot, Joel Perot.
Yeah.
It felt harsh saying 7.5 out of 10, even when I said it then. But when you think about it a bit more and you actually put context into his season, because if you say that top scorer in the championship only gets a 7.5 out of 10, it feels harsh, but
I think as well though,
you've got to
some of it
expect
was
him to
just
be up there for
but I
goals in
think
this
a lot
team.
of it as well was to do with the service he were getting, like when he, when we weren't going forward as much. So when you didn't have like Firpo playing and you had Byram on there or Groove in there, I
Oh, for
think
sure.
he struggled
But I
more.
think he has to do more himself, though. I think he has to work,
Yeah. Yeah, he did go
work the
missing in
channels
a
a
lot
lot
of
more.
games. Yeah, yeah.
Make a lot more. I think he just needs to do. He does the hard stuff brilliantly, but
Mhm.
the stuff that should be easier for him because he's a big lad. He's a big lad.
Yeah.
He should be.
He
If
got
you look
bullied
at
off the
Joel
ball a
Perot
little bit,
physically,
yeah.
he should be a target man. He should be able to do a lot of the things Bamford can do in terms of holding the ball up, but he just doesn't quite do that well enough for me. And as you say, if you had Bamford's ability to hold the ball up and win things in the air and just be do the ugly stuff well, I think you'd genuinely be looking at one of our best players. But ultimately, that's maybe why Joel Perot is in the Championship rather than in the Premier League ultimately. But we'll move on to the last player to rate, and it feels quite harsh to go on to say one of the quieter performers this season in Matteo Joseph. I'll go to you first, Tash, because I think we do need to probably finish this one on a positive if we can. Wow, you've gone for it on Matteo Joseph.
I would really, I just thought it was absolutely fucking terrible.
Wow. I mean, he has had some spells in this season where it's been like it hasn't
I've
happened
just
for him
been
off the
really
bench.
annoyed. Like, I'm like, just don't put him on the bench, man. His confidence was so short. And I feel bad because his last season, if you had asked me, I thought, yeah, he was brilliant. But this season, he was just absolutely terrible. And then because he was terrible, he was trying too hard, being really selfish and stuff with the ball, trying to just get that goal to bring up his confidence. And Bamford in the past got absolutely killed for that, annihilated for it. So I think he should have the same, like, not saying he should be killed for it. Don't clip that up, don't put that up. I think he should get the same, like, what's the word, I can't think of the word. Yeah,
Loaned out?
I would definitely loan him out, or just because I think there is a player in there. Like I say, last season he was brilliant, but this season I just think he was just terrible. I just didn't think I think there was one game where he played really well, um, like as an impact player and stuff. But yeah, just like coming off as a sub player. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I've just like, please do not bring him on. Please do not bring him on. And I actually preferred Bamford over him, and that said a lot because I really didn't like Bamford last season. But Bamford's changed my mind this season as well about him. But yeah, just not. Yeah, meh.
Yeah, he definitely dropped down to third choice. I think there's no getting away from that. At the back end of the season, what I would say is, it's a long time ago now. It does feel like a long time ago now, but he did start the season as our number 9. He was ahead of Joel Perot in the pecking order, sort of first 8 or 9 games, and the goals didn't go in. But I did think he started the season quite well. I think he did a lot of the ugly stuff well. I think a couple of assists as well. And I remember a game against Sheffield Wednesday away, the 2-0 win. Didn't score in that game, but I thought he really bossed that game. I thought he bullied Sheffield Wednesday's defenders in that game. But I think ever since he lost his place to Joel Perot, I think we've not really seen the same Mateo Joseph. And I don't think he's a player. I think he's a player that needs a run of games. I think he's a player in the second half of the season where I think there's talent there. I do genuinely believe there's talent there. And maybe as the season's gone on, I've become less and less convinced. I'm not going to lie to you. And I think he is definitely, his confidence is totally shot at this moment in time. There's no question about it. I do think the second half of the season, that's not Mateo Joseph as a player. I think that's Mateo Joseph with zero confidence, trying too hard, as you say, and desperate to win his place back in the team. And I think maybe he went about it the wrong way. It felt like a lot of the time when he was, and I'm not saying that I know this for a fact, and not at all. It's just the way it came across when he came on the pitch. It felt like he was coming on desperate to outperform Perot, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, that. Yeah, and I think as well when you had the wingers also scoring, like goals were just coming in from everywhere, and just the wingers had such an impact when they came off. Like say if you had Solomon off, you still had Ramazani to come on or Gnonto to come on or whatever, and they were brilliant impact players. But I just think with Joseph, he didn't make any difference to me.
Yeah, it's
and
a hard
I
one.
think he's not just up against Bamford and Perot, he was up against like sort of how the wingers were performing as well, and how good like everyone was impacting when they came on. I think he didn't.
It's a strange one with Joseph because I can see him going out on loan next season and scoring a lot of goals. I really can.
Yeah.
I think
it's another maybe another championship team, maybe a lower
I
one.
do really believe that, and I think that is the best bet. I think the worst thing you can do with Mateo Joseph now is keep the same kind of development plan where he's coming off the bench. It just isn't working for him. He just, for whatever reason, it's not working for him coming off the bench. If he needs when he has a steady, consistent flow of games, I think it works for him quite well. Same with Joffrey Gelhardt, really, as well. In terms of he's gone out on loan to Hull, he's been absolutely superb, and that doesn't mean he'd have been superb for us. I think it's just worked well in that kind of sense. But it's worth pointing out Joseph's younger. Well trusted in terms of in the Spain under 21s. I think you don't get into the Spain under 21s if you're not a good player. I still fully believe that. Yes, we can't use under 21 football as any kind of barometer for senior football because the standard is so much different. Physically, it's so much different as well at championship level. It's an interesting one for me and Mateo Joseph. I still would definitely persist in terms of keeping him around the place, but I think on loan, if that makes sense. I wouldn't look to sell him permanently. I don't really see the point of selling Mateo Joseph. I've seen a few people talk about obviously this Betis link. I think the thing is, if you sell Mateo Joseph at like say 7 or 8 million, yes, it's 7 or 8 million we can spend. But really, now that we're in the Premier League, that should really feel really weird saying this, but for a Premier League club, that's kind of pocket money now. In terms of compared to other fees that you're going to see. So I would, for the points that he can still come good. I still believe that. I still fully believe that.
If there wasn't the last season, if we didn't see him last season, then I would be like, oh, just sell him, get rid of him. But the fact that we did see him last season, and we know that he can be really good, and he has got the potential. That that's why I would loan him out. And like you say, if he just get his confidence up with another team, just might be that it just. Sometimes it just doesn't work out at Leeds. We've seen that, like you say, with quite a few.
It's definitely the case.
Was it strikers? Pierce or whatever? Isn't it? Who was it for Ipswich? Who won that?
Leif Davis.
That's it. Yeah. He became like absolutely phenomenal under that, like them. Do you know what I mean? So there are players that would just shine somewhere else.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I still believe Matthew Joseph can be a very good player for us. I just think just got to manage his development better. I think we've got that a little bit wrong so far, but I think it's always a difficult one when you're trying to get out of the Championship and you need goals here and now. You've got to go Perot really in terms of when you need it in the here and now. We need to look beyond potential in the Championship. Maybe next season if we can have a steady season. That's going to be very, very difficult though, by the way. But I think at Championship level, you need the goals. You need to win every game. Every week you need to be looking to win the game, don't you, at Championship level? And you can't really afford to be waiting on potential at that point. You've got to go with you've got to go with what the proven quality is. Even if I do think Matthew Joseph's got a higher ceiling, that's irrelevant when you're trying to win games, right now, kind of thing. So I think 5.5. It don't feel as hard as Tash, but as what Tash has said, but. Yeah, it wasn't a good reflection of Matthew Joseph's ability this season, I don't feel. We'll finish off with the manager, Tash. Daniel Farke. What have you gone for Daniel Farke?
Did I already tell you this?
No.
Okay. I'm going to say...
We did decide, but just to say, off camera, we decided before we started, we need to do Daniel Farke as well.
Yeah. I would... Gonna have to give him a 9 just for the fact that we've been promoted, and for the fact that he did improve on last season. There was a couple of times where I've been really frustrated with him and like, why have you brought him on, or why are you not making a sub yet? It's been it's a running joke, isn't it? It's normally 65 or 70th minute or whatever he brings on a sub, so. That was a bit frustrating, but I do think he improved from last season. And I think he was more flexible, and just purely having the guts to drop Meslier when so many managers before him didn't.
Yeah, exactly that. That's big. I've gone 9 out of 10 as well. I think we've got 100 points, broken all kinds of records. I mean, he's scored the most goals in the league. But for Burnley's insane defensive record with conceding the least goals in the league, a goal difference is a joke. I think it's the highest in Europe, or certainly was the highest at Europe at the end of the season. It was an insane season from us. And listen, there has been times of frustration, sometimes with substitutions, sometimes maybe we've had quite inconsistent spells, despite getting 100 points, as crazy as that does sound. We have had spells where maybe we haven't played the best, but second half of the season especially, we've locked in. And I think we've
definitely
delivered a superb season overall with what has to be said, an incredibly dominant squad for this level. Easily, I think the best squad in the league this season. Not that Burnley and Sheffield United haven't got good players themselves and Sunderland, but I think it was a squad that had to win the league really this season.
But again, as well, the fact that you lost Somerville,
Somerville, Rutter, and Gray.
Yeah, so to do what he did there, and I don't know if he had much say on bringing in likes of Tanaka and that, but if he did, then and
injuries to Ampadu as well. At crucial times, Struijk at crucial times as well. Firpo, had some injuries, so he has had quite a few things to navigate. Gruev got injured quite early on as well. He was a key player for him, so he has had some choppy waters to manage as well over the season. And I think he's done it well. I think he managed to run in superbly. There was times where I was panicking, and don't get me wrong, I think had we finished second, I still would have said it'd been a fantastic season, but it'd have been disappointing not to win the league with the quality we've shown over the season and the quality we've got in that squad, really. Because I think if we have to be honest, our bench would have a good chance of finishing top 2, not just a starting 11. So Daniel Farke, you have to give credit, has put together a fantastic squad. He's more than earned this chance at Premier League level. He's more than earned it. Yes, it hasn't gone too well at Norwich so far, but he's earned the chance to get another chance at it because
the back in,
maybe he's made mistakes in the past, but there's no reason why you can't learn from mistakes. I always believe that in any walk of life, and I think that's the case with Daniel Farke as well. Don't get me wrong. Next season we've got to start well or start at a decent level. Because obviously it's ruthless next season. If we don't start well, that is the reality. But
and he doesn't like
certainly
to start well.
earns a chance to start the season.
Yeah, and it can't. I don't think he's started that well, has he? Last 2 seasons, I don't think we've
had quite slow. Certainly the first season back at Championship level, we started slow. But I think that was more down to obviously the drama with Sinister, Gnonto at the time. Jack Harrison, players like that, the drama that brought and distraction really, where we had kind of half a squad. I mean, we start the season with like Jamie Shackleton on the wing and Ian Paveda and play. No disrespect to those players, but yeah, it's a bit of a drop off in quality. But anyway, guys, that has been our player ratings for the season. Let us know in the comments down below your thoughts as well, what ratings you'd have gone for as well, and keep an eye out for other videos that will be popping up on the channel as well when we're making wonderful signings over the summer. Wonderful signings. Messi will turn up here. It'll all be wonderful.
Haaland.
It's going to be a brilliant. Haaland will arrive as well. There's a bench option for Perot. You've got all these different options. It's going to be a wonderful season. Rafinha coming back as well. But anyway, guys, we know it's going to be a mad transfer window as well, and we will bring you updates on the transfers. But we're not going to update you on, say, where it's links to Haaland or it's links to Rafinha coming back. We're going to give you links about
like every day.
That could genuinely happen. Where we genuinely think there's a possibility.
Stuff. We'll do it on proper news.
We will. But anyway, guys, we're going to leave it there. I've been off. I was trying to think of my own name then. Actually, I was genuinely trying to think of my own name. Oh man. I've been Oscar. I'm Oscar. Hi, I've been on Leeds TV for like 7 years now, and I don't even know my own name, but I am Oscar. How are you guys? And I hope you enjoyed this video. And that's been Tash. And
give a like, share, and all that jazz. Subscribe.
Like, share, subscribe, comment as well, because that does massively help us when you do leave a comment. So even if it's just to say what your ratings would be, or if you think our ratings have been incredibly harsh or incredibly generous, let us know. And we'll leave it there anyway. Big thanks for watching, and we will see you later. Cheers, guys.